this is AJ with Effect Radio and joining you with a artist upcoming and out of Nashville today. This is Nedy. Hello and welcome.
Hey, thank you so much, AJ. How are you today?
I am doing great. It's July and it is just in full. I don't know. It's going to be hot. I don't know if it's hot in Nashville, but in Idaho and southern Idaho, it's going to be in the hundreds this week.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's definitely getting hot over here as well.
Yeah. So speaking of summer, before we get into who you are as an artist, I'm just curious, what does summer mean to you? Like what's like is it like hot dogs on the grill? Like we just had the 4th of July, right? And you're our artist of the month for July. So I'm just curious like what is
Yeah.
July or summertime? What's the summer vibes that you like?
That's a great question. It would definitely consist of a lot of traveling. And every now and then, like 4th of July party and stuff like that. So different cookouts throughout the summer. Our summers here in Nashville or in Tennessee are definitely a lot different than what I'm used to. So I'm used to California summer. So it's definitely an adjustment. I grew up in California, in Southern California. But yeah, usually my summer consists of a lot of traveling with concerts and events, and meeting a lot of different people and just having that, summer vibe kind of thing going.
Yeah, well, you can't beat you can't beat Southern California. I guess that wasn't a fair thing to ask. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
it
Southern
doesn't.
Southern California is like the ideal weather right now. But give us a little backstory on who you are as an artist. How did you get started in music? And you ended up right now you're in Nashville. So how did that happen for you?
Yeah, I moved to Nashville at the end of right before the pandemic, actually. So that was an interesting first year for me, moving into Music City and then everything shutting down just a few months after. But yeah, I grew up in California. Most of my life, I've lived in Southern California and spent some time up in Napa Valley several years as well. But I really just I moved to Nashville because I wanted to multiply my music opportunities, and I wasn't in the right location, so I needed to change that. And as an artist, as an independent artist, or I think even just with whatever you do as an occupation, you look at your obstacles, you look at your circumstances, and you try to remove those obstacles. And so one of my obstacles was like, well, I'm not around the right kind of people for what I'm trying to do. So I moved over to Nashville and it's been a blessing ever since.
That's great. And where God leads, He provides. So I'm glad that you're in Nashville shining your light and doing some great music. So, speaking of great music, your newest song our listeners are getting familiar with, it was just released a couple weeks ago. It's Humble Yourself. And I have to say, that's probably one of my new favorites. I love that song. It's definitely more of the rock vibe than I've heard from you. And I'm just curious about what your writing process was with that song and what does that song mean to you?
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's definitely a different aspect of me with the rock. I actually started off as a guitar player. And so that kind of style is something that I've always really resonated with, growing up listening to like Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin and stuff, really loving that like distortion. But I wrote the song based off of an experience at my restaurant job in Napa, and I was being bullied as an adult. And so I just sat down and was kind of just taking it all in. And music is a form of self-expression, so I constantly use it as that. And so just wanting to get my thoughts out, my heart out, and really thinking about how the people that I was being bullied by, which were some of my coworkers and managers, they had the sense about themselves that they thought that they were better than me. They thought they were better than other people as well. And really just recognizing that we all need to be humble and to remember that we all are the same, and we need to be humble before God, most importantly, because God resists the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. And so really that was that on my heart to just kind of write that and hopefully, encourage other people, check ourselves that we're being humble and treating others with respect.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Do you have a favorite Bible verse?
I do. I have a lot of favorite Bible verses. It's so hard to choose one. I would say Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord. Plans to give you a future and a hope is probably one of my top favorite ones.
Those are good ones. Thank you for sharing. Now, I wanted to circle back briefly about what you talked about, your song Humble Yourself, which is the most recent song. And then you had the song about bullying, Made to Be. Now, what are your suggestions? And I know you've been interviewed many times on this. Like, what's your suggestions for those that have to deal with bullying on whether it's, we do have a younger audience that listens to us, in schools. Obviously you dealt with it when you were a little older, but how, when you are forced to deal with a bully on a day-to-day basis, do you
Mhm.
have any suggestions how to deal with that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think there's practical advice I could give, like let someone know, whether you're a kid or an adult, let somebody like with authority know. With my situation, it was happening from that authority figure. So there was a lot of gaslighting that took place from, like my supervisor to me that made me like second, guess myself. But what really helped me through was reading the word and remembering what God says about me. Even though people have their opinions about you and they may like you one day and not like you the next, they might criticize how you look or how you act or how you talk. What really matters is what God says. And I think when we find our value and our identity in God and the worth that He gives us, I think that provides a lot of healing, that's very empowering because now first of all, we're not meant to put our worth in other people, number one.
Hmm.
And number two, because people are so fickle, then our sense of self-worth will also be fickle. And so really remembering like, hey, my value lies in what God says about me. He says that he made me in his image and his likeness, that I'm his masterpiece, created to do good works. And then scriptures go on. That's probably the number one piece of advice that I can give is look for your worth, look for your value in God and in what he says about you in his word.
Absolutely. So my one of my good friends and co-hosts on the radio, Ryan, has always said when what someone thinks or says about you is none of our business. What God,
Good.
you know, thinks and says about us in his heart, and how we are made individually different, whether it's physically or emotionally. And bullying is not something that should be taken lightly, especially at schools. And I think oftentimes it's overlooked. So I appreciate you bringing awareness to that
Yeah, thank
huge
you.
issue.
Thank you. Yeah, totally agree with what Ryan said. That's spot on.
So, as far as your music and concerts in the future, what do you have coming up?
Yeah, so I'm playing Pennsylvania in a couple weeks in July 27th, I believe is the day. That's the next concert that I have booked right now. So looking forward, been there before, have a strong community of now, they're family now at this point, but we've done several shows out there. So excited to be back this summer for our second You Matter tour.
Okay, I love it, and I love the title as well. I appreciate that. So, do you have, because you are an upcoming artist, you've been doing music for a little while now, who inspired you? Do you have like, whether they're Christian or secular, was there certain artists that inspired you when you were younger?
For sure. I would say Alanis Morissette inspired me a lot. My dad would also play a lot of Spanish music growing up, different genres really, but Selena was one of them. Love her and her voice and just who she was. And a lot of different people from like, I listen to a lot of variation, like anywhere from like rock to hip hop. But I would say Alanis Morissette, maybe in Selena. I was into a huge phase with listening to Jack Johnson a lot, so that was cool. But I didn't grow up in a Christian home, so I didn't listen to a lot of Christian music until, I became an adult and got saved.
Well, that's great. Thanks for sharing. And I think that a lot of the Christian artists that have listened to secular artists can also gain a lot from them because even though we're trying to, we're serving God, we're also trying to reach the world. So having music that's similar to what people are familiar with and doesn't sound different, which I can totally say your music is, more edgy, especially your most recent song that we've been playing. It definitely is a song that you would turn on and the lyrics are Christian, but at the same time it's catchy. And I could see someone that's not a Christian being like, oh, this is a nice, catchy song. So we appreciate hearing that out of your music.
Yeah, thank you. One of my favorite bands is Skillet, and they kind of do similar in the sense where there's not a whole lot of, blatantly Christian lyrics, but if you actually pay attention to them, then you're like, oh, this is different. So I really respect them for doing that.
Yeah, I and they also play alongside secular bands, but they always have a gospel message during their set at some point. So I do agree. Skillet is definitely
Yeah.
a long-lasting, amazing band that we really appreciate here on the Effect as well. So we know that you do music. You are a singer-songwriter, but do you have other little hobbies that you do when you're not singing and songwriting that you enjoy?
It's funny that you asked that. So I guess like I try to make my hobbies ministry related. So um me and my ministry partner, she's on the board with me with my anti-bullying nonprofit. We run the Friends Forever Club. And so basically we like to have events and provide it's like a community as well, of like friends. And there's like, adults like us where we can be more the mentor, friend kind of people, and then we also have like the kids that come, and so we love to host events, co-host events, travel places, and meet people, and really bring that message of purpose, hope, and value found in Jesus Christ. And so that's something that's near and dear to my heart, and really, it goes alongside my music. And then we did do a YouTube series, a kids YouTube series. We launched it last year, and just came out with a bunch of different videos for the younger kids to have something positive to look at, called In with the Outcasts is the name of the YouTube series. I do have a children's book that's not actually published yet, but we have that in the works for a series, a children's series. So that's pretty much what I do with most of my time, working on all that stuff.
Oh, that's great. Could you tell us a little bit how to get in touch with the Friends Forever Club? What's the best way to find out more information about that?
Yeah, so we're on social media. We have our website, which is friends, the number four, everclub
Okay.
dot com. And then you can find us on Instagram, you can find us on Facebook. We do have a TikTok, and it's all again, friends, the number four, Ever Club. You can always shoot us a message if you're needing prayer or just someone to talk to, anything that you're going through with bullying, or maybe someone who's been bullied. We just love to be that supportive hand.
Thank you. That's so again, that's Friends of Forever, and then it's four, not spelled out. Foreverclub.com, friendsforeverclub.com. I think that would be a great resource to our listeners. Anti-bullying, so Friends Forever with four, not spelled out there. So, with that being said, also, how's the best way to contact you if people want to find out more about your concerts, events, maybe even contact you and find more music? What's the best way to keep in touch with you?
So you can find my website, officialnetty.com, and there's also like a contact form on the website, or you can just go to my social media, which is primarily on Instagram. I am on Facebook as well, and TikTok. And you can just shoot me a DM, whether that's wanting to just to talk about the ministry, or whether that's talking about potentially having a concert or throwing an event. Just go ahead and send me a message and we'll get back to you.
All right. Well, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us here. And to close out, I always ask our artists, what is one thing that one message you would like to leave with our listeners?
Well, thank you so much for having me and for having me be the artist of the month this month. That's a huge honor. I would say the last thing that I would say, a message to our listeners, is find your value in God and what He says about you. I really can't stress that enough. And that's just such a message that's been so deep within my heart to share, is finding our value and our worth in God is what we were made to do in order to be the people that we are meant to be.
Thank you. And then once again, this was AJ on Effect Radio. I was interviewing Nedy, who happens to be our Artist of the Month for July of 2024 now. And check her out on her website, social media. Again, thank you, Nedy, so much for taking time out of your day to join us on this hot July day.
Thank you, AJ. I appreciate you.